Hello, everybody. It's me, Ross, and welcome back to another edition of Meet the Opposition. This week, I'm joined by Liam Hoden, the man who covers all things Doncaster Rovers for the Donny Free Press. Liam, thank you very much for joining me. Town head down to the Keepmo, aka the Eco Power Stadium, whatever they're called. Doncaster, bottom of the League One. The last time we met, it was a 6-0 win for Town at Portman Road. A lot has happened since then at both clubs. But let's talk about Donny then. It's not been a good season, bottom of the league. Talk us about it.
Yeah, not been a good season at all. It's been a lot worse than anybody expected, really. I think kind of how it was laid out at the start of the campaign was that this one was going to be definitely a season of sort of rebuild. You know, not a great deal expected from it. Richie Wellens, who was in charge at the time, he was quite honest about that. So was the board as well. The start of something, really. That's what it was seen as. Richie Wellens coming in, putting the initial building blocks in place, and then probably looking to next season to really kick on. But it's been an awful season. There's not been anything built whatsoever, and they find themselves bottom of the league and with a mammoth task to stay in the division, despite some pretty decent recent performances. But there's an awful lot to do. You're looking at probably winning every other game now between now and the end of the season, which would be a remarkable turnaround in form. As I say, they've shown a few signs of life recently. So all hope isn't lost yet, but the size of the task is huge.
Yeah, slim hopes there, and it seems that after getting thumped one week, you then go and get a fantastic result. It's just like what happened, the Rotherham 5-0 defeat at home, and then the weekend just gone, beat Sunderland at Stadium of Light. What's the difference between those performances? And Gary McSheffrey, of course, the new manager who's been there for a few months now, is caretaker as well. What has he changed since Richie Wellens got sacked? And talk about those two different games.
Yeah, this has been something that they've had all season. You know, after losing at Portman Road, they went and beat MK Dons at home. And they've done it on a couple of occasions this season where they've had a really, really bad result and then gone and bounced back quite well. And it's bizarre because there are times when confidence has looked to be non-existent, and the fight in them looks to have completely gone. But yet they do have this knack of producing decent performances after every defeat. The thing about the Rotherham result one, that was an awful game, particularly a local derby. The Rovers kind of played off the park. Obviously, Rotherham, one of the best teams in the division. For me, I think they're the favourites for the title. I don't think that's much of a stretch. But Rovers, but that performance, given the recent ones, was a bit of a blip, which is a positive. They've probably not picked up a run of results that they perhaps could have, but then they go to the Stadium of Light on Saturday. Fantastic performance, fully deserved to be 2-0 up at half time. Battled really well second half, rode the luck a little bit, but came out with a fantastic win. And it's continued this once Gary McSheffrey's got his teeth into the side. He took over as caretaker at the start of December, got the job permanently just after Christmas, and since he's really got his teeth into it over these last few weeks, as I say, performances have improved. There's been a slight change of approach, which one of the criticisms that could easily be levelled at Richie Wellens is that despite the fact that things weren't working and clearly weren't working, kept trying to do the same things. It was always the feeling with Richie that he was either waiting for players to come back from injury or he was trying to hold out until January when hopefully he could make some additions. Didn't get that opportunity, but Gary McSheffrey's obviously been involved at the club. He was the under-18s manager, has been at the club for the last few years. He'd seen plenty of what was going on, had his own ideas about how to rectify that. And so far, pretty good. Is at least giving him a chance of staying up.
Definitely. And, the weekend just gone, Town just about beat Gillingham, who are, of course, battling down there. They've got a new manager in Neil Harris. What sort of game shall we expect? Let's quickly put the possible Donny 11, pretty much the same team who beat Sunderland. You've got to keep a winning team, surely. A few January signings, of course, in there. Mitchell, who's in goal. Of course, he wasn't the man who was in goal in this 6-0 defeat at Portman Road. I think he's now at Gillingham, actually, isn't he? I think on loan.
Yeah.
But talk about some of the signings in the window, any players here to pick out, and what game can we expect from a Gary McSheffrey side?
Well, in terms of the game itself, one thing that's characterised Rovers recently, what they didn't have before, is this determination to start quickly, this determination to get right in the opposition's faces. One I mean, Gary McSheffrey accepted the blame for the Rotherham defeat in that he tried to match Rotherham up. He was too concerned about trying to shut Rotherham down, which is kind of, and he admitted it himself, a bit foolish given how well organised and well drilled Rotherham are. He won't make that mistake again. What he will do is send his team to get right in Ipswich's faces. There'll be a little bit of directness or getting the ball forward quickly, whether that's into the channels or into the front man. And I think that's what you can expect early on. In terms of the team, new signings in particular, Rio Griffiths, a striker. He was at Tottenham as a youngster. He's on 21 now. His scoring record under 18 level for Spurs was outstanding. A really, really hot prospect. Got snapped up by Lyon. Went across to France. Only ever really involved in their B team setup, but he captained that. And Rovers have managed to get him on a free on a 2.5-year deal, and that's one of those signings that, I mean, it could go anywhere. You never know whether these players are going to live up to the potential that they've got. But if he does, my goodness. And it was full debut Saturday, scored a great goal. You know, he raced through onto a ball over the top. And so many times this season, Rovers have just lacked it in front of goal. No ruthlessness whatsoever. He finished superbly. Very, very refreshing to see that. And he could be a big one. And just around him, Josh Martin, who was on loan from Norwich City. He were MK Dons in the first half of the season, but never. I think he featured 5 times for MK Dons. So Norwich were happy to recall him. And Rovers have got him for the remainder of the campaign, and he's done really well as well. You know, he got a bit of everything as a sort of attacking midfielder / winger. He can take players on. He's got a bit of pace, but his close control's fantastic, and he'll slow things down and pop a ball out. So, and I imagine that he'll probably, given the club that he's at, as you highlighted there, that he'll probably fancy putting on a bit of a show if he can do on Tuesday night.
Definitely, and of course, this for Town fans, this is a must-win game. It could, but then it also could be a banana skin that they could easily slip on. What are you expecting? What's your prediction as the standard goes?
It's really difficult because I think Rovers have over these last few weeks. I mean, they played really well against Plymouth. Absolutely battered them first half. Could easily have been well clear and didn't take the chances and got beat. If Rovers take the chances and they can have something to hold on to, that they're strong in that position, as they showed at MK Dons a few weeks ago, as they showed at Sunderland on Saturday. It's hard to know exactly, but I am a bit more optimistic than what I would have been a few weeks ago. You know, they have shown some fresh fight. I think building on the result at the weekend, if they could come away from this one with a point, it might not seem great in the grand scheme of things with the desperate need for points that they've got, but wouldn't be a bad result on the back of, 4 points from Sunderland and Ipswich. I think people would snap your hand off for that one, and it continues on the kind of rate of points that they needed. It'll be tough. There's no doubt it'll be tough, and I think the game at Portman Road, not a massive amount of difference between the two sides for quite a long stretch of it, but once Ipswich, sensed blood and got themselves in front, they never looked back, and that devastating period in the second half. That's what you're up against. I think Rovers have been fortunate on a couple of occasions this season when they've not been in games against the top sides. They played Sunderland at home just after Christmas, and Sunderland were in second gear and showed no real desire to go on and thump Rovers. Rotherham did. Rotherham did last week, and obviously in a derby scenario, they're gonna. So teams can really dominate and bully them, but I'm seeing less of that recently. So yeah, I think I would go for a draw in this one. Probably maybe 1-1, and hopefully Rovers, as I say, that'd be a decent result in the grand scheme of things.
Okay, then I don't think Town fans would be happy with that. But of course, the last time we went to Doncaster last season, of course, Town fans weren't there, but it was a 4-1 win for Doncaster. Of course, both sides have got a lot of different players. But any advice, any things for Town fans if they're going to their first Donny game, or if they've been before? But has anything changed since they've gone?
Not really. There's not a great deal of things around the ground. It's a little bit out on its own. So if you're planning on having a few drinks, probably head into the town centre first and have a walk down, 25 minutes, half an hour walk to the stadium. Not too bad. But there's also a bar at the ground that is open to away fans. So yeah, if you're arriving and you just fancy a drink in there, get in there. But yeah, it's a very welcoming place, Doncaster. Probably too welcoming at times. It's not got that kind of hostile environment that you'd like to see for your club. But always a decent place to visit, I would say.
Definitely, I'm looking forward to my trip down on Tuesday night. Any other notes, Liam, before we wrap up? Thanks again for joining me.
No, not really. Not really. Looking forward to a game and hopefully a competitive one. As I said a few weeks ago, probably wouldn't have been expecting, Rovers being competitive would have been enough. Hopefully, Rovers are going into this one looking for another win. But yeah, a competitive game would be a good one on Tuesday night.
Definitely, we shall wait and see. Well, hope everybody has a safe trip to Donny. And if you aren't, follow up with us and also follow up with Liam at Donny Free Press as well if you want to get the Doncaster's point of view on it. So thanks again, Liam, for joining me. Thanks again for everyone watching, and we'll see you in Donny.